Hi, and welcome to this webcast series, which is brought to you by the Center on Knowledge Translation for Disability and Rehabilitation Research, or KTDRR, at American Institutes for Research, in partnership with the Campbell collaboration. The Center on KTDRR is funded by the National Institute on Disability, Independent Living, and Rehabilitation Research, or NIDLR. This is the second part of a three-part webcast series, which focuses on methods for conducting systematic reviews. You can find more information about the webcast series, including PDFs and text descriptions of the slides, at ktdrr.org. Today we're joined by Julia Littell. She's a professor at Bryn Mawr College and a former editor-in-chief of the Campbell collaboration. She'll be talking about the MECCIR standards, which are the methodological expectations for Campbell collaboration intervention reviews. Welcome, Julia. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Anne. Welcome, everybody. Let me first give you a little bit of background information on the Campbell collaboration. Campbell produces systematic reviews of credible evidence to inform policy and practice in fields of social and economic policy. Campbell also develops guidelines and standards for the conduct and reporting of systematic reviews in these fields. The MECCIR standards aim to reduce bias and error and increase transparency at each step in the review process. The MECCIR standards are part of a suite of Campbell guidelines and standards for systematic reviews. This includes a document that provides general guidance for systematic reviews, updated in 2016, guidelines for information retrieval, fresh out in 2017, and guidance on specific topics such as economic methods, network meta-analysis, and synthesis of single-subject designs. The MECCIR standards were adapted from Cochrane's standards, Cochrane's methodological expectations of Cochrane intervention reviews, by Chandler and colleagues in 2012. The MECCIR standards are designed for systematic reviews on interventions relevant for social and economic policy. There are separate standards for the conduct and reporting of systematic reviews. So the MECCIR conduct standards can be found on the Campbell website at this URL. This includes steps to reduce bias and error in the review process, including formulating and articulating clear objectives, clear inclusion criteria for the review, including unpublished studies that meet the criteria, and reliably extracting data from studies. In total, there are 44 mandatory MECCIR conduct standards that must be met prior to the publication of a protocol in the Campbell Library. And there are 28 standards that are highly desirable. These generally should be met, but there are justifiable exceptions. And finally, there are 4 optional items that can be done at the author's discretion. The MECCIR reporting standards can also be found on the Campbell website. These are steps to produce transparent, replicable systematic reviews. They include providing a detailed description of the search strategy, providing a detailed description of screening processes, coding, analytic, and synthetic processes. For reporting, there are 69 mandatory items, 37 that are highly desirable, and 2 that are optional. How to use the MECCIR standards? Well, first, don't be intimidated by the sheer number of items in these lists, as many of the standards are easily met. For example, one of the mandatory MECCIR reporting standards is to provide the names of all authors on the paper. That's easily done. And help is available in the form of written guidelines and in-person and online training from the Campbell collaboration and from other sources. In terms of support for the MECCIR standards, there are several documents that will be helpful for reviewers. The Campbell policy guidelines that I mentioned already and the Cochrane handbook are particularly useful in implementing these standards. Campbell also has some checklists and templates that are very useful for review authors to use. We have separate templates and checklists for title registration forms, protocols, and for completed reviews. These are available on the Campbell website and from Campbell's managing editors. Support is also available in the form of a variety of kinds of training. Campbell gives in vivo workshops several times a year at different places in the world, and we provide an online training video series that follows the steps in the review process. These videos talk about issues in problem formulation, searching for studies, screening and selection of studies, data extraction, risk of bias, and meta-analysis. There are 2 series of training videos on the Campbell website, the Introductory Methods video series and an Advanced Methods video series. And finally, feel free to contact us with questions or for information, or if you'd like to conduct a Campbell review. Thank you very much for your attention.
Well, thank you very much, Julia, and thank you to everyone for attending this second webcast in our 3-part series. After you've viewed all 3 webcasts in the series, I encourage you to fill out an evaluation form following the link at the bottom of this slide. We'll email it to all who registered, and you'll also be able to find this link on our webcast information pages at ktdrr.org. As you know, this evaluation can help us plan our future events, and you can also ask your questions to Julia and the other presenters in this webcast series. And be sure to include your email address if you would like them to get answers to your questions back to you. Before we close, I'd like to thank the National Institute on Disability, Independent Living, and Rehabilitation Research, or NIDLR, for providing funding for this webcast series. And we look forward to your participation in the final webcast in this series on a short primer on power calculations for meta-analysis, which will be presented by Terry Piggott. So thank you all, and have a good afternoon.